welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. Joined by my guy Arti, head of scouting for Film Is a Art. He's a scout during the day, music recording artist at night. Appreciate you for coming on, my brother. We got a lot of things to dive into when it comes to the NFL draft, man. And the first thing that I got to address with you is how just over the course of this draft process, the media, for some reason, just loves tearing down Shedeur Sanders. No matter what he does, they just find a way to hate on him. From patting the ball with several quarterbacks like Brady, Mahomes have done, to just saying that he's like the second coming of Andy Dalton, but a little bit worse. I'm just trying to figure out what people see in Shedeur Sanders that doesn't make them think this dude is destined to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. If there was ever a quarterback prospect that I'm willing to bet on that's going to be a future all-time great, it's the son of Deion Sanders. And the whole shebang about, oh, he's only being hyped up because of his last name. Well, if that's the case, why isn't Deion Sanders Jr. in the NFL? Why is Shiloh Sanders projected to be a UDFA? It just really pisses me off, the unfair discourse that Shedeur has for somebody who changed around the program. He wasn't lying when he said he's a winner. Everywhere he goes, he changes the program. I didn't know what the hell Jackson State was until Shedeur arrived. Colorado has been irrelevant since the freaking 90s until Shedeur got to Boulder. When I see Shedeur, I see somebody who's really accurate, the most accurate passer in this draft class, takes great care of the football, and every time the game was on the line, he did nothing but show up. He has poise, confidence, and this is somebody that from week one should be a day one starter in this league. How are you feeling about Shedeur Sanders and how he projects to the next level?
First off, JT, thank you for that warm welcome and thank you for the opportunity to come on your platform and to be able to talk some ball with you today. I appreciate you, brother. As far as Shedeur Sanders goes, the number one reason why he is thought of the way that he's thought of is simply on my shirt here. That's why I wore it for this episode, because if Shedeur Sanders wasn't the son of Deion Sanders, these expectations and these criticisms, would they be so loud? Would they be so obvious? Would they be so evident? I don't know. Because when I watch the tape on Shedeur Sanders, I see easily a top 15 player in this draft. I see a top 2 quarterback in this class, and no one else even comes close, besides obviously Cam Ward, who is my current QB1. So when you look at Shedeur Sanders, you've already mentioned his accuracy. You have already mentioned how he takes care of the ball. What I like about Shedeur Sanders is when things break down, we all know what he can do because things broke down in Colorado all the time. Even with the improvement on the offensive line this year, Shedeur Sanders still was running for his life, still having to scramble and make plays sometimes. Like at the end of the what was it, the Colorado State game?
Baylor game.
Whatever game week 4 was, when he had to throw that Hail Mary to DeJounte
LeJounte.
Webster for them to even have a chance to win that football game. So we've seen Shedeur Sanders for 2 years in Colorado. As I mentioned before we even started the podcast, we saw what he did at Jackson State in his freshman and sophomore year. This is a proven kid. This kid has proven himself time and time again, but
Multiple
because of
years
his
as a
last
starter,
name,
too.
but right, because of his last name, you know what I'm saying, because of all the hype, because of the fact that he has his own logo, because of the fact that he raps as well, because he has confidence in himself, and the cameras are always on him, and the lights are always bright around him. People have been turned off by that, but it doesn't turn me off. No pun intended. Like, I love everything that Shedeur Sanders brings to the table, skill set wise. Is he my favorite person? He isn't, but it really doesn't matter because at the end of the day, I'm drafting him to play football for me, and I know that he's coming from a coach and a father that has trained him very well on how to handle the acclimates of being an NFL player and an NFL quarterback. So I don't understand the Shedeur Sanders hate, and it's not my job to, because I'm not one of the haters. So as long as he continues to block out the noise, continues to work with his quarterback coach, who also coaches Cam Ward, an excellent, excellent quarterback coach. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be completely fine. If it was me, I'm taking him top 5 in this draft without any hesitation. It remains to be seen, though, where he goes based on how the NFL sees him.
Shedeur Sanders falling in the draft is going to remind me similarly to when everybody slept on Lamar Jackson in 2018. Remember, he was nitpicked, he was scrutinized. Folks questioned just how accurately could he throw the ball at the NFL level. Remember, it was a former general manager, Bill Polian, I believe it was, said that he should switch from quarterback to receiver. Shedeur is getting that same level of hate, and it's rooted in the hate that folks had growing up for his father, and now it's hereditary hate that's carrying over to him. But he's built for this. He's not new to this. He's true to this. And whoever gets Shedeur Sanders is getting a bona fide 15-year starter, somebody that has the ability to elevate you to a Super Bowl caliber level, and somebody that's going to give you a shot at going toe to toe with some of the best quarterbacks in the league. If New Orleans does take him ninth overall, it might not be a rebuild. You instantly could compete for the NFC South with Shedeur having Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. You got a pretty decent offensive line. Kellen Moore, it's not like this dude's a novice. Was he on the top of the head coaching market? No, but he's been a pretty solid coordinator everywhere that he's been at every single stop. So I feel really confident that if I had to put all of my life earnings on any quarterback in this draft class outside of Cam Ward becoming a potential all-time great, I'm willing to bet the house on Shedeur.
Yeah, I mean, very well said. It's not even close. I smiled a little bit when you said Kellen Moore because, as a Cowboys fan, that name Kellen Moore still leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But I will give him his credit. Last season for the Philadelphia Eagles, now mind you, he was calling plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. That was one of the best offenses that this league has seen in a long time. With Saquon Barkley running behind the offensive line, obviously Jalen Hurts and Smith and Brown and Goddard as the outside weapons. But I do agree. I think that the Saints are an interesting spot for Shedeur because they're in a situation where you could say offensively they are quarterbacked away from maybe competing for a playoff berth instead of trying to compete for, you know, uh, the lottery, I guess you could say. Um, but overall, I mean, Shedeur Sanders is a very, 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 very good quarterback prospect. He's not perfect. He does have his weaknesses like everyone else. That deep accuracy is not my favorite part about him. He also sometimes still does get in hero mode a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's clear as day that when you look at all the quarterbacks in this class, it's Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders is literally right here. Everyone else is just trying to get drafted in a reasonable spot where they make themselves some money, honestly. Like, I get the Jackson Dart hype, right? Obviously, I get the Jalen Milroe hype. That athletic wise, I mean, the last athlete to come out like that, not counting Anthony Richardson's Lamar Jackson, so Jalen Hurts. So get that. But as far as Shedeur Sanders, he should comfortably be a top 5 pick. And it's a shame we're even having this conversation. And like we were saying again before the pod, it's like these guys just get prospect fatigue so easily. I mean, my goodness, we saw it last year with Caleb Williams and Drake May for that matter. You know, they tried to, now mind you, Jaden Daniels ended up being a stud, which I got to eat some crow on that. He ended up being a stud, but Caleb Williams didn't have a terrible rookie year. He was on a terrible team. And Drake May was on one of the worst teams in the NFL,
But
and he
still
still
had a
had his
pretty
moments.
good,
So,
yeah, yeah.
mm-hmm.
Everybody, this is our guy Arti. He is the head of scouting for Film Is a Art. It's a black-owned and ran scouting department. Make sure to go ahead, subscribe to our guy, check him out, and like we said, he's a scout during the day, musical artist during the night. Check out his music as well. We'll have the link to his latest music down in the comment section below as well. And check us out wherever you get your podcast from. JT Sports Podcast is available. Apple, Spotify, Amazon. Links are down in the description down below. Give us a 5-star review if you enjoy. Tetairoa McMillan, I feel it's the weirdest prospect in this year's draft. When I watch him, And you just see him physically 6'5", 209. He's a physical specimen. He went for like 300 and a million touchdowns against New Mexico State. And I'm looking at that game. I'm saying, like, what the hell is this monster? This Hawaiian menace that's over here just terrorizing everybody. But then you watch more of his film and you see a guy that, yeah, he has great size, but he doesn't move as well as what you would hope for a receiver that has the hype that he has had throughout this process. And I'm not necessarily saying that he's going to be a bust. He's been compared often to Quentin Johnston. I don't see a lot of Quentin Johnston in his game, because the difference between him and Quentin Johnston is that he actually plays up to his size. He can win those 50-50 balls. You know, he is able to consistently beat press coverage a little bit better than what Quentin Johnston was. And also, he has one of the lowest drop percentages out of any wide receiver in this class. I think he's like third or fourth at like 4-point-something%. My issue with him is that for the hype that he's received, I don't view him as a top 10 worthy pick. If I'm going to invest a top 10 pick into a receiver with these measurables, I need Calvin Johnson. I need Randy Moss kind of athleticism. You need to be 6'5", 209, but you need to be moving like a freak. Like, it just seems like when he comes off the line, he's not going full throttle. It looks like he's kind of coasting during the games, and that's what frustrates with me. That's what makes Tet McMillan so weird, because you just expect a little bit more explosiveness out of somebody with these measurables. It just looks like he just is half-assing routes, but when he's playing up to his full potential, he's just as good as anybody in this draft class. And I'm wondering if we have a case of somebody that might have been holding back at Arizona due to how bad the season went for him. And let's say he gets drafted by the Cowboys. Dude ends up becoming an all-pro immediately. I like his skill set. He looks like a Drake London, Michael Pittman type clone, because both of those guys profile similarly. They weighed a little bit more, but they didn't move as good laterally as what you expect. But they're really good possession receivers. So it's just Tet McMillan is just a really weird prospect, because when I watch him, I just feel like there's so much that he left off on the table at Arizona last year, to where I really don't know what to think of him. I don't think he's going to be a bust, but, you know, could he end up becoming this elite receiver, like a Mike Evans sort of clone?
If I can be completely honest with you, out of all the receivers in this draft, and we're gonna call Travis Hunter an athlete because I believe that he could play either or both in the NFL at this point. Out of all the pure wide receivers in this class, Tet McMillan, my opinion, is the only guy with wide receiver one upside. Now, like you said, he's got to live up to that, because there were times, especially in my rewatches over film the past week or so, where I did see a lot of what you were saying. I did see not the most nuanced routes. I did see not the most forthcoming effort on play designs that weren't going to him. But what I will say about Tet McMillan, where I disagree with you at, sometimes we put expectations on people because of their height, weight, wingspan, and it's not really fair, because if you expect him to be Mike Evans, you're going to be let down, because Mike Evans is a Hall of Fame player for a reason. He's got 1,000 yards for I don't know how many freaking years in a row for a reason, because he's a special dude. That's not saying Tet McMillan can't get there, but there's a difference between a guy who is truly special, truly a Hall of Famer, and there's a guy who's young, who's still developing. I think Tet McMillan's best days are ahead of him as a wideout. But what I will say is that what he can do day one, like you said, is the 50-50 ball. Like you mentioned, third or fourth as far as wide receiver in this class, as far as drop rate. That's exactly the difference between him and Quentin Johnston. You remember where Quentin Johnston ranked as far as drop rate among wide receivers in his class? He was one of the worst. And he's continued to be one of the worst ever since he got to the league. You know what I'm saying? So that is those things that's wide receiver that definitely translates. If you drop balls in college, you're more than likely going to drop balls in the pros. I think and I love the fit that you kind of teased there with Ted McMillan to Dallas, because if you put him opposite of CeeDee Lamb, CeeDee Lamb can still do things in the slot and be outside, of course, too. But Ted McMillan is one of those guys that Dak Prescott could just throw the ball up to him, and he could trust him to come down with it. I mean, seriously, like if you allow Ted to be a two in a situation with one upside, that is the best possible situation for him. If you expect him to be a one day one, I mean, you're gonna have some positive moments, but he's gonna still have those growing pains because of the lack of nuance in the route running, because of the lack of twitchiness, because of the not high top end speed. But make no mistake, Tevin Millen is a damn good player, top 10 prospect on my board. Um, and I can't wait to see where he ends up, not just for personal reasons as a Cowboy fan, but because I am a fan of his as a prospect as well.
Yeah, and I don't really think that there's too many teams that could go wrong drafting him. If the Panthers want to take him at 8, I'm not against it. Bryce Young doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but it's like when you got to do like a Ted McMillan with the radius that he has catching the ball, the red zone target that he's going to be, you literally just have to put in his proximity. He may not be the kind of generational athlete that you would hope him to be at a size like that for a guy that is being talked about so much, but I feel he does have a lot of similarities to Drake London. Drake London just went for the most quiet 1,200-yard season that you will ever see. And if the Panthers can get a really good possession receiver, because I also peep that despite somebody who doesn't watch film as much as what he claims, he isn't as he isn't as in love with the game as what you will hope him to be. He does have pretty good football IQ. When he's running his routes, he does do a pretty good job of finding holes and zone coverage. And also, he's really reliable in third down situations. Anytime Arizona needed somebody to go to on third down, they were throwing it to him. And with his wingspan, he doesn't need to create incredible separation. When I evaluate wide receivers, I evaluate you and your skill set based off your size. I'm not expecting every wide receiver to be the same. If you weigh this much, have this height, I don't expect you to have a skill set of a 5'10" receiver. I don't need somebody Ted McMillan size to be the greatest route runner in the world. Can you just get open enough and catch the ball? And with that catch radius, all you got to do is just put it anywhere in front of him. He's going to come down with it. There are not too many defenders that are built to handle a guy like a Ted McMillan. Outside of like a Christian Gonzalez, a Jalen Ramsey, or a Sauce Gardner, he's a mismatch for most cornerbacks that he's lining up against. You literally just have to throw the shit up. That's what Noah Fafita was. There were times when you watch him play at Arizona, Noah Fafita's back there panicking, about to get his lunch money took. He just said, chugging that thing downfield. Ted McMillan somewhere down there. And you can never go wrong having a good 50-50 ball receiver. George Pickens makes his killing off winning nothing but those 50-50 goal balls. So if George Pickens is doing the same thing, Ted McMillan has the capability to be a really productive wide receiver anywhere he goes. Just throw it up to him.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like, George Pickens is not my comp for him, but that's the role that I see him in day one. Bro, just like you said, just put it up, man. Just put it up. There were times where Noah Fifta, now mind you, I've told you personally how I feel about Noah Fifta. He's trash. But there were times where even Noah Fifta in his weak, inaccurate, almost high school level arm would just put the ball up and Ted McMillan would just go make a play. Just go make a play. Now, there aren't many Noah Fiftas in the NFL. Especially when you look at his draft range. He's going to go to more than likely either a young quarterback that's on the rise or a veteran quarterback that needs a wide receiver too. So he's going to be in a situation, regardless of where he is drafted, where he's going to be dependent on early, whether it's to get the lion's share of the targets or to help in a complementary role. So can't wait to see where Ted McMillan goes. And yeah, man, I just think he's one of the safer picks in this draft. Regardless of where you have him, I think he's easily one of the more safer picks in the draft class that is full of, as we'll get to later, some absurd reaches.
And I just and I don't have anything against Tech McMillan. I'm gonna be honest. I watched a good amount of his film. I watched like 4 or 5 games earlier today, and I was impressed. I was like, you're a lot better than what I initially thought you were. I just get frustrated, and I feel he's just so weird because I felt like he left a lot on the field last year. He could have been so much more dominant. He already was pretty dominant last year, but imagine if you just saw a little bit more explosion off the line. You know, I definitely feel if he was way more explosive, or it looked like he was going a little bit more full throttle coming out of his breaks off the line, he's a surefire lock in top 10, maybe top 5 pick. But I got a hot
You
take.
probably wanted to see what he did to Travis Hunter in
Exactly.
2023
That's why I want to
every game.
see. Where's that
Yeah,
monster? Where's that Samoan monster? I know you got it in you, bro. Because when he just released off the line, and Steve Smith pointed this out too, I believe. Like it just irritates me a little bit because I'm like, bro, I know you're way more capable of being able to come off that first step than what you are, my dude. You're way too. I know you got way more explosion in you. That's all. That's why I call him weird because it's just. I just look at his tape and I just felt like he left a lot of plays on the field. But in my opinion, Travis Hunter playing cornerback in the NFL is a complete waste of his talent. In the NFL, you can have a shutdown corner, and yet the impact of having a shutdown corner doesn't result in many wins. You are going to be a better football team by making Travis Hunter a full-time wide receiver. Let's not even waste time playing him on both sides of the ball and risk him getting injured. If you play him at both cornerback and receiver, which I don't question if he can play both at a high level. My thing is, if he gets injured, you just lost your starting corner and the starting wide receiver. At wide receiver, he has the ability to impact the game and impact the wins and losses way more than what he will playing cornerback. If you were to take Patrick Surtain and put him on the worst team in the NFL last year, the Titans or the New York Jets, they're not really that better of a team with Patrick Surtain. But if you take a guy like Travis Hunter and put him on offense, he could possibly win you 3, maybe 4 extra games with just how dynamic he is with the ball in his hands. He may not be the most technically refined route runner in the world, but the dude has amazing what do they like to call it? Ball skills. It's just anytime you just throw it up to Travis Hunter, he's going to make a play. There were a lot of passes that Shedeur threw where he just said, F it. Travis Hunter somewhere down there, and he goes ahead and makes a play. There were moments when Travis Hunter made Shedeur Sanders look better than what he is. And there's a reason why he won the Heisman Trophy. It wasn't on favoritism. It wasn't because of the whole Deion Sanders hype machine from the media. He played so many snaps on both sides of the football, and a place that's hard to even breathe at. This is what gets overlooked about Travis Hunter. The dude was playing unlimited snaps in Boulder, Colorado, where the altitude is insanely high and it's harder to breathe in that part of the country than it is everywhere else. So to have that level of conditioning doesn't make me question if you can play both sides of the football, but you're more effective if you just focus on being a full-time wide receiver. Maybe if they got a few packages they want to throw you in on defense, but for the most part, his presence and his impact on the game is greater as a wideout. And just playing him at corner, I just feel you're just wasting time.
Yeah, I definitely respect your opinion, but I do disagree, my brother. I think that Travis Hunter, first of all, outstanding talent, earned every single award, every single accolade last year. What he did as in comparison to his sophomore year, I mean, he just took it up to a whole other level. The reason we're even having this conversation is because of how much better he got as a wide receiver last year, right? Like going into this draft cycle in summer scouting in 2024, we're thinking, okay, is he a corner? Is he a wide receiver package? Now we're having conversations of okay, which one is he gonna pick? If I'm an NFL team, I am playing Travis Hunter at cornerback full time and having him in offensive snaps, like a snap count or certain situations. Here's why. I look at Travis Hunter potentially, right? Because I'm a scout. So I always look at everything potential wise. I think potential wise, I think Travis Hunter could be a top 8 wide receiver in the NFL at his peak, at his very, 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 very best. At corner, that dude's got Hall of Fame potential, bro. You want to talk about ball skills? Travis Hunter's best trait is his reaction time. At the split of a fucking second, he can go from being in his zone to, as he's done multiple times, skying over into someone else's zone and catching an interception.
Playing
That's
cover
not
two with
ball
Travis
skills.
Hunter is
That's reaction
unfair.
time.
Unfair.
That's reaction time. You saw it against TCU in 2023. You saw it against UCLA twice in 2023. You saw it this year against Colorado State. Like, his reaction time is incredible. He has so many like Hall of Fame corner instincts, like reaction time, his ability to know when to stick his hand up to deflect the pass. Like, he plays corner, right? He plays corner like he's been playing it for years. Years. Like, last year as a corner, he was playing at an NFL level, in my humble opinion, as a corner. Now, obviously, he made up the difference between 2023 as a wide receiver. He absolutely did. He had a phenomenal year. You want to talk about releases? We were just talking about Tetairoa McMillan. Travis Hunter has some of the best releases in this class with ease. Like, Travis Hunter getting off the line, he's not going to have any problems. He's got the quickness. He's got the versatility in his releases. He also has the speed to threaten you downfield, but he's sudden enough to be able to stop on a dime and run those hitches, to run those slant and goes, to run those deep posts, those deep ends, those deep outs. He really excelled last year, specifically on those deep in cut routes. Watch the tape. Those deep in cut routes, Shedeur would hit him. He would catch it and get like 15 yards after the catch. Like, he really excels at that. And a system that really features deep ends, he can really excel there. But the reason why I want him full-time corner is because I respect what you're saying. You know, wide receivers, they do sell tickets. They do win games, do get paid the most money. But JT, we had a similar conversation, not me and you, but NFL media had a similar conversation about Micah Parsons a few years ago, right? Obviously, it's different. Micah Parsons doesn't play offense. But everybody was like, Micah Parsons shows a lot of pass rush potential, man. Is he going to stay at linebacker or is he going to go to edge? Now, the Cowboys are stupid. They stuck him at edge only. Now, granted, he turned out to be a great damn edge too. But what Micah should have been was a defensive chess piece. He should have been able to line up at edge and line up at linebacker, and you don't know what the fuck is coming. That is exactly what Travis Hunter should be in the NFL. He should be a versatile chess piece to where obviously he can play corner all day. But like with his conditioning, and if it's the right team, bro, you can give him 25 snaps a game. It's easy. He's been doing it for the past 2 years.
In Boulder, Colorado,
He's been playing 150 snaps. He can play 85. He can do it. And it's like, obviously, if the game's on the line, you need a first down. Obviously, Travis Hunter's going to be on the field. If you need a big stop on fourth down and it's obvious passing situation, obviously Travis Hunter's going to be on the field. So he's going to be on the field in those big moments anyway.
So let me ask you this. If he goes second overall to Cleveland, do you see the Browns use him in a way where it's week to week, depending on the opponent? 1 week, we may want to play you more at receiver than we want to play you at corner. And then on other weeks, we may want to play you more at corner, but we have a few packages where we install 20 plays for you to learn throughout the week. So come game day, we're still going to use you at receiver, but depending on who we play and where we feel we best need you at more is where you're going to get the majority of your snaps from. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to give him a defined role. I'm just saying that depending on who they play week to week, it's going to affect how much they use him on a particular side of the ball.
I think Cleveland is one of those rare spots, JT, where if I'm Cleveland, I'm playing him strictly a wide receiver. Your corner room is so damn good. Now, obviously, if somebody goes down, obviously you could easily slide him in there, and that's one of the best secondaries in the NFL. Still, but they need so much help wide receiver wise. If Travis Hunter goes to Cleveland, I'm fully convinced they had a conversation with him and said, "Yo, if we pick you, you are going to be a wide receiver."
Same thing with the
Because
Patriots.
that's exactly what they need.
It's like there's no way the Patriots are going to draft him 4th overall with Drake May entering year 2 and Stephon Diggs is like their best receiver, and you're just having Travis Hunter out there at corner and use him sparingly as a receiver. Although him and Gonzo would be the scariest cornerback duo in the league, you can't have your second-year quarterback with a talent like Travis Hunter sparingly using him. So if he goes to the Giants with Malik Neighbors, this is why I like him as a receiver more, because it's just like you do want to use him both ways, and I do agree with you on that point. You kind of, I know I said playing him at wide receiver utilizes his talent the best way, but you kind of do have a point. It's like you kind of are wasting his talents. It's like if you got somebody that can dominate on both sides of the football, you say he can be a Hall of Fame corner. I feel he can be a Hall of Famer playing both. He may be the best athlete we've ever seen. There is no comparison for Travis Hunter. He's nothing like Charles Woodson. He's nothing like Jabril Peppers. And I heard Urban Meyer talking about this. There's never been a player that could be a top 10 corner as a pick and also be a top 10 wide receiver as a pick as well. He's a top 10 pick at both positions, no matter if he chose to do one full time. So if you go to the Giants or you go to the Patriots, I feel he would be better suited at receiver, especially with the New York Giants. Him and Malik Neighbors, who gives a damn who's at quarterback? You got him and Malik Neighbors going crazy, somebody's going to be open. Same thing with the Patriots. But with the Browns, though, it's like you are in an interesting spot. And if he falls to Jacksonville, he definitely could fall better in line as a corner and then get packaged in as a receiver. But it's just how far are we looking at in terms of the draft range for Travis Hunter? Where's the highest he can go versus the lowest he could go?
There is no way he gets past 4. Like, there is no. I would be utterly shocked if Travis Hunter goes any lower than 4th in this draft. Like, I've heard conversations that the Browns are really torn between, taking a quarterback, going Travis, going Abdul. The Giants at 3, but New England at 4.
Lock.
It's fucking obvious.
He's a Mike Vrabel kind of guy.
The best case scenario for New England is to draft Travis Hunter. If New England gets to draft Travis Hunter, it's a win for their draft already.
Is it worth them trading up for him?
I don't know. And here's why I don't know. I don't know how the Browns see quarterback. The Giants need quarterback, but they signed 2 old men. So you would think that they're pretty locked on either Abdul or Travis. And I don't know if the Giants are going to trust the Patriots enough not to pick their guy if they trade up. So it's going to get spooky. It's going to get spooky. The first 4 picks are going to determine everything that happens after this draft. It's pretty concrete that Cam Ward is going to be a Tennessee Titan, which he absolutely should be. He should be the first overall pick in this draft. But after that, I don't know what's going to happen, JT. I have no idea.
As a Steeler fan, I'm praying for Shedeur Sanders' downfall. I really hope we can get him at 21. But if we got to trade up at 8 to go get him, I got no issue with that. I don't care what any of the detractors say about Shedeur Sanders. He's instantly better than anybody the Steelers have at the quarterback position right now. And I'd rather have him than old man Aaron Rodgers. I feel he'll connect better with the teammates. And I feel with the connection that he had with his father, Shedeur Sanders, him with Mike Tomlin, he kind of already alluded to Mike Tomlin being a little bit similar to Dion in terms of coaching style. But listen, if the Steelers can't get their hands on Shedeur Sanders, I think that Jalen Milroe would be a great pickup for the Steelers. Let me rephrase that. If the Steelers draft Jalen Milroe, it's a match made in heaven. Everything that Jalen Milroe does well, the Steelers are perfectly equipped to utilize in the best way. When he was at his best at Alabama last year, when he had that great game against Georgia, he was throwing the football downfield with the vertical pass game. You got two of the best deep threats in the league. You got George Pickens. You just throw the shit up, he's going to come down with it. You got DK Metcalf, one of the most physically and the most freakishly athletic receivers to ever enter the league. It's not too damn hard to get those brothers the football. Just throw it the freak up. But also, you got a quarterback that becomes a tank running the football. Look, nobody wants to tackle Jalen Milroe in the open field, especially once you get to the fourth quarter. The dude is built like Mike Oslott playing the quarterback position. He's like Derrick Henry at quarterback, but just a tad bit smaller. You're going to get tired of tackling that shit throughout the course of a 60-minute game. And the Steelers want to be a run-first team. Arthur Smith is not this novice offensive coordinator that he's made out to be. He had some moments last year when it's like, what the hell is up with all these doggone toss plays? But the Steelers went from being one of the worst offenses in the league to a top half offense in 1 year under Arthur Smith. He didn't really get along with Russell Wilson. Russ held the ball too long. He tried to run around, and he just didn't have the athleticism. Jalen Milroe can run around, extend plays. And I don't view him as Anthony Richardson. I view him more as Justin Fields. Anthony Richardson had no business coming out of Florida as early as what he did. I thought that him going to Shane Steichen would have been able to get the most out of him, but like we saw with the Trey Lance situation, even if you do go to a good coach, some guys just aren't cut out to be a quarterback at the next level. Jalen Milroe has more experience and more production than what Anthony Richardson had. His problem is that when he's off, he's really off. But he has shown the ability where he occasionally can go through his progressions, just not as consistently enough. He can work the quick game, but not as consistently enough as what you would expect. But he's a hard worker. He's not somebody that I see tapping out in the middle of a play. You know, like Jalen Milroe to Pittsburgh, although I don't like the idea of reaching for him 21st, there's no guarantee that he's going to be there if the Steelers want to trade back up to later part of the first round, or if they plan on drafting him early in the second round, that he's going to be there. The potential is there, and if you have the right system around him, he can win. We've seen quarterbacks in the past be able to lead teams to success with just their athleticism, like Lamar in 2018. The NFL allowing the Steelers to get Jalen Milroe, I think it's one of the worst things that anybody could allow to happen.
You hit it on the head, JT. There is not a more perfect quarterback fit in this draft than Jalen Milroe to Pittsburgh. I mean, as happy as you would be to have Shedeur Sanders, he's not a scheme fit. Jalen Milroe fits exactly what Arthur Smith wants to do. He wants to run the football, but not only that, he wants to run play action. He wants a quarterback that when they boot off that play action, they're a threat to run, making those linebackers and edges have to stop in their tracks because you don't know if it's a naked bootleg and that man Jalen Milroe is taking off and trying to run a 60-yard touchdown. You talked about Jalen Milroe built like a tank. Did you see his 40? I mean, again, we had a great conversation pre-show. Brother, I would pay money to watch Lamar Jackson and Jalen Milroe run 40 side by side. I would pay money because I bet you the numbers are going to be very, very similar. Like, this is a true athlete. This is the best athlete at the quarterback position in this draft, without a shadow of a doubt.
And the Steelers have won with guys with this skill set in the past, like Cordell/Stewart.
Like Jalen Milroe would complete the transition that you guys were looking for. You guys were looking to get bigger, stronger, faster, more tough. That would complete that for you guys.
And Mike
You would
Tomlin
have
says
your
he wants a
quarterback of the
quarterback
future.
mobility. He wants quarterback
Exactly.
mobility. Now,
Exactly.
Now,
You
I
would
don't
have
like
that.
the idea of him starting week 1. But
No.
if the Steelers do have to throw him out there week 1, I don't feel you're going to get Anthony Richardson kind of results. He's more durable, and you can, like you said, you can build an offense around that running ability. You already have a run-first approach anyway, and with how big he is, you give him like 12 to 15 touches throughout the game, he's going to wear down the defense. Plus, with whoever they pick up at running back, they are going to draft the running back. You already got the weapons at the receiver position. The offensive line should be improved. What doesn't get talked about is how the Steelers have invested a lot of draft capital these last couple of years into the offensive line. Some of those have worked out. You have some injuries to the left tackle from Washington, but I think that the more I think of the fit, the more I'm on board. If the Steelers can't get Shedeur Sanders, hey, I got no problem with taking Jalen Milroe. Even though I wouldn't want him being drafted in the first round, with how this draft class is viewed, not really a lot of top-end talent, you're kind of just rolling the dice on anybody once you get past the first 10 picks. Once you get the 21st, it's slim picking. So the chances of Shedeur becoming successful, it's the same chances that you have of anybody else becoming successful, regardless of position at that point. So, me personally, I'm not against getting Shedeur. Well, I'm not against getting Jalen Milroe. I'd rather have Shedeur. Keep saying his name because that's who I want. But, I really would love to see Jalen Milroe in Pittsburgh. Like you said, I don't think there's a better quarterback fit than him going to Pittsburgh. Jalen Milroe, Mike Tomlin, I think that would work out pretty good. I expect to see an all-time amount of reaches in the first round of the 2025 draft. There's only about 8 or 9 blue-chip players that have the potential to be high-end level starters in this league, maybe all-pro level. But once you get past the 10th pick, it's a crapshoot at that point. There's a lot of good edge rushers, but there's no Nick Bosa's, no Myles Garrett. The cornerback class isn't as deep as what we've seen in years past. And, running backs normally don't get drafted that high. We'll get into that a little bit later. But there's a chance that once we get past the 10th overall pick, you see guys like Jackson Dart getting drafted high. You start to see like offensive guards maybe coming off the board a lot earlier than what you would see in years past. This draft has reminiscent shades of 2013 all over it. When you don't have a lot of high-end level talent, the grades across all these teams' draft boards are going to vary very differently. Hell, Josiah Stewart, who I think is a top 3 edge in this class, possibly could go in the first round. I just expect to see a bunch of reaches, a bunch of picks that aren't going to make sense to a bunch of people due to how this draft class is kind of limited and the amount of prospects you're picking from that have that high end potential.
Yeah. Let's talk about James Pierce. Let's talk about Michael Williams. Guys that, if you check all the consensus mocks back in summer 2024, these guys were projected to be top 5, top 3 picks, top 10 picks. I seen a mock today at work where James Pierce went to the Eagles. 32nd overall.
Why does the NFL just keep allowing the Philadelphia Eagles to do this? We just make it easy for
I don't want the Eagles to do this. I don't know why the NFL does.
It's too easy for Howard Roseman at this point. He's playing general manager on rookie mode pretty much.
Nah, seriously. But not to take any credit away from him because him and his staff, they do a phenomenal job. But at the same time, it's like, I think this class in particular, this class reminds me very, very, very similarly to the 2022 class, except there are two quarterbacks that we assume that are going to be successful as compared to that class where it was just a pick of litter of what bowl of shit you thought would be okay to eat. But yo, man, from James Pierce, Michael Williams,
This is a really good.
Benjamin Morrison, like
Oh,
so many guys that we just had like up here during summer scouting that we're not even talking about it.
and Benjamin Morrison was really good. He just had injuries. I like that
Yeah,
Kansas corner on Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant. Yeah, he's seen
On
as a third round, second
that
round
that
guy.
ECU corner, Chevelle Revel, like he was a projected first round pick, but he had some injuries.
He
He
ripped up his
possibly
knee
could
though.
still be in.
That one's like Morris. He ripped up his knee. But James Pierce played the whole year. Michael played most of the year. Those two guys are guys that were seen as those perennial top 5, top 10 picks. But because of the nature of this draft and because everybody's just so close in talent and ability,
Yeah.
it's like it's easy to push some people down and uplift people up.
Like, what's
It's
the
more
difference
like
between a Donovan Ezaraku and James Pierce Jr.?
I think the main difference is just what you like in an edge. What you like in an edge for real. James Pierce, as you know, is that really, really wide 9. You put him all the way out. You have him with his both hands in the ground like a Nick Bosa. And the other gentleman that you mentioned, he's more of a shade in, right? He's got that versatility where he can rush a step in from the guard in between the tackles. So he's got a little more versatility there. He's got a little more meat on his bones, I would say. So it's one of those situations, man, where it's like this draft comes down to what you want,
Yeah.
right? You have to know what you want, but beyond that, you have to do your homework. Because a lot of these guys, like James Pierce, for example, I know I keep harping on him and Michael, but James Pierce, if you saw his freshman tape, you would think, yo, he was going to explode,
Yeah.
right? He was going to have a massive junior year. He didn't. He had an okay junior year. Michael, I remember watching Michael as a freshman. He had that huge game-winning sack forced fumble against Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl. And he just could not stay healthy. And then he got outshined this year by, Jalen Walker. So it's just the tale of, some people just don't reach their full potential. Some people have a late breakout. Some people have an early breakout, but injuries catch up with them on why the draft class is full of reaches because like every year you're really trying to put your hand in a basket and hope that you're pulling out a stud. But most times or not, you pull out a decent to good player.
Yeah, we could see a bunch like Luther Burden. Like event. I thought he would have been a top 15 pick when last year's season started, and now he looks more like a back end first round, early second round kind of guy. But you got somebody like a Matthew Golden who's been rising up the boards throughout the course of the season, throughout the course of the draft process. I would take Matthew Golden with a top 15 pick, but also with how this draft class is, the Carolina Panthers at 8 kind of it kind of shows you what this draft is. Normally you don't think of a team that has a top 10 pick, viewing this draft class to the point where they're willing to trade out of it with all of the holes that they have to fill on defense. But if Will Johnson or Mason Graham isn't there, is there really anybody that you feel comfortable picking at 8 defensively that for sure is going to be a guaranteed hit for you? I don't really know for certain. These Georgia players are a hit or miss. It seems like the Eagles are the only ones that know how to identify the good ones, and I like Jalen Walker's film a lot, but it's just I don't know. I feel the Panthers could
I
be
don't
better
know where to
off.
play him, JT. I don't know where to play him. I don't know if he's a linebacker. I don't know what he is, and that's not a good thing. Like
Yeah, you could be
I,
looking at
I
a
watched
Jesse
Mikey's tape,
2.0.
and I knew like he was a linebacker that could rush. That he just turned into an edge. I legit don't know what to do with Jalen Walker. That's my
You might
biggest
as well
gripe.
take Tyler Warren or Ted.
Yeah, but I mean, as I told you, I think we texted about this. If I'm Carolina, I'm taking Mike Green. Understand the off the field concerns. Understand that, but that is a very, very, very productive late breakout player. Now, we talked about this I said this a few seconds ago. Late breakout, early breakout. The one thing about late breakout players, their confidence is there. When you have an early breakout and you deal with injuries, you deal with you didn't live up to potential. I worry about your confidence. Late breakout players, you roll right into the pre-draft workout process with the Senior Bowl, the Combine, and then you just continue right on through the interviews, the pro days, and everything like that, and you start your NFL career on a high note. That's what Mike Green starting off with. Obviously, he has the off the field stuff, but that was one of the best pass rushers, the best defensive players in the country last year. He followed that up with 2 days at the Senior Bowl and then dipping because he kicked everybody's ass for 2 days straight. Like, I really like Mike Green a lot, and I specifically like him in Carolina because he reminds me of the edge they traded away to the Giants. And what's his name? I can't think of it right now.
You talking about Burns? You talking about Burns?
Burns. Yeah, he
Brian
reminds me a
Burns.
lot of
Brian Burns. Yeah.
reminds me a lot of Brian Burns with his burst and his ability to bend. Ooh, we really like Mike Green, especially to Carolina today.
My issue is that with this drive class being how it is, you know, for the Carolina Panthers, if you trade down at 8, you can still get more value, but still walk away with a pretty good player. It's just that if you're picking in the top 10, you rather prefer to have a premium position player. And at 8 at this point, you know, if you can't find a team that's willing to trade up with you, unless they're trying to get Shedeur, you might as well just go ahead and take the best offensive player available. In a draft class like this, it's all about just trying to find guys that are going to be hits for you more so than reaching for a guy like Shamar Turner. Like, don't even get me started on him. Like, he has no business being the first round pick. I get so tired of folks getting hyped up off like athleticism, potential. The dude at most had like a half a sack in the 1 sack and a half in the season. You know, the only player that had limited production in college that broke out in the NFL was Rashawn Gary. The chances of that happening with Shamar Turner are very slim to none. He gives me Tyree Wilson vibes, but even Tyree Wilson had more production than what he had. I know they're a little bit different, but the hype that he had, I never seen it. You know, I was like, you draft him, you're most likely drafting the bus, and that's kind of what he somewhat has been for the Raiders. But this running back class, in my opinion, is going to restore OG football. I feel with the amount of depth and talent that we have in the 2025 running back class, it's going to completely change how offense is played in the NFL for the next 5 to 6 years. For the last 7, 8 years, it's been a pass heavy league. Now, with more teams running cover two-man shells, you're going to start seeing teams exploiting that by running the football more. There's like 13, 15 quality running backs in this draft class where you can see like half or the majority of the league have like 2, 3 deep at running back, where one guy goes down, you got another one who can come behind him and step up. We could see this running back class truly revolutionize the league. Like, you love Quinshawn Judkins. My sleeper is Woody Marks, but I love Ashton Genty. Like, I keep hearing this talk from Raiders fans how they can pass on Ashton Genty and find a running back in the later portion of the draft that gives them 75% of him. But I want them to take this into account. This is considered to be arguably the greatest running back class ever. So if there's a running back that gives you 75% of Ashton Genty, how good is Ashton Genty in a stat class like this? You know, Marion Hampton, there is a gap between Genty and Hampton, but Marion Hampton, you ever seen that Denzel Washington movie called Unstoppable with the runaway train? That's what I see when I watch Ashton, when I watch a Marion Hampton play. Like, yeah, the dude isn't insanely elusive, but he has really good acceleration. He's a north to south runner. And when you see this locomotive coming at you, especially if you're a defensive back, you're going to be forced to make a lot of business decisions. No, nobody wants to tackle this monster in the open field. You know, this running back class, I feel, is going to be able to make Smash Mouth football great again.
It's a breath of fresh air for all the grandfathers and and all great uncles that still watch football. Now, me, as a guy who loves passing, but respects running backs, of course, I'm interested to see how many of these backs actually make an impact because there's so many good ones. But my only concern is how many backs are going to take jobs and how many backs are going to get stashed away. Because there is a lot of backfields, cough, cough, Dallas, that really, really, really need a running back of the future, like now, like right now. Like, we wonder how many backs are going to go in the first round. I wonder how many backs are going to go in the second. Like, I could see 7 running backs going in the second round legitimately, and even more in the third. Because the deeper you go in the draft, it's not like the running backs always get better, but they're more closer together.
Yeah.
Like, we could see a record number of running backs drafted this year. This is an outstanding class. Like I said, as JT alluded to, I do love Quinshon Judkins, but obviously Genty is a special back, finished second in Heisman voting. Amarion Hampton is a freight train. Like, you talked about nobody wants to tackle him. He's not that elusive, but my gosh, he when it's time to turn on the jets, he can. He can. I wouldn't say he can run away from you, but he can run. He can run.
He's a lot faster
Really?
than you think for a guy his size. And then
Yes,
2023, he led the
exactly.
nation in broken tackles.
And that's no small feat. Like, that is for a running back, that is the most transferable trait. Breaking tackles, because that's exactly what you have to do in the NFL. You have to consistently break tackles. So him doing that, mind you, and that was his sophomore year. So with the way he played this year, like putting those back-to-back seasons together like he did, Hampton is such a good prospect. You talked about Woody Marks.
I love
Man,
Woody
let's talk
Marks,
about
man.
RJ Harvey.
Oh,
Like,
from UCF, yeah.
like, let's talk about RJ Harvey,
Devin
bro.
Neal.
Like,
Ollie
Devin
Gordon.
Neal.
Ollie Gordon had a down year due to he probably should have transferred. Definitely should have transferred. Should have
Yeah.
transferred to Oregon. But I mean, there are a lot of stud backs in this
Damian
class.
Martinez. Like, it's a quality, not
This is why I
quality.
feel
It's
like
a
it's going to
great
change
running
the
back class.
league. Like with all of the running backs in this class, there at least has to be 8, 9 of these guys that turns into really productive backs.
My advice to NFL teams is get 2.
Hey, get 2 of each, man. It's like
Get
get you
at
one in
least
the first
2
4 rounds
because
and
you're
get you
gonna
another
need them.
one the last 2 rounds.
Exactly. You gotta get 2 in this draft. You have to. It's mandatory.
Everybody, this is my guy Arti, head of scouting for Film Is a Art, Black Ran NFL Scouting Department. Make sure that you go ahead and subscribe. Check our brother out. He's a scout during the day, musical artist throughout the night. You can check out his music too. We'll leave the link to his Apple Music profile in the pinned comment and description down below. My guy, I appreciate you for coming on so much. Any other things you would like to say before we let you get on about it here? You can go ahead, get it off your chest, brother.
Yeah, man. Again, just thank you for the opportunity to be here to represent Film Is Art. My NFL scouting department that I help run with some brilliant guys. Shout out to Dalen, Hunter, Alex, Cam, Hayden, Rail, Cole, all of the guys we bring it on to the team because the team is always expanding right this summer. And thank you for also the shout out for my music, man. I've been grinding really, really hard, trying to put out the best possible music that I possibly can. I appreciate anyone that will take a listen to me from the comment. And I do have something I want to say. I don't know what this is gonna come out, but my debut album, Diary of a Healed Black Man, my debut album will be dropping May 2nd, 2025. So you guys, love rap music, if you just love, to hear someone tell their story in a relatable but also empathetic and comedic way, tap in with me. my
None of that
debut
bang
album.
'em up,
Rarity.
none of that shoot 'em up, bang 'em up kind of music.
Man, none of that. Hey, look, it's real rap is back. Diary of a Hill Black Man, May 2nd, 2025. Tap in, or you'll hear it somehow, somewhere.
Make sure y'all check my guy. Y'all also don't leave up on out of here without hitting that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Check us out wherever you get your podcast from. Apple, Spotify, the JT Sports Podcast is available. Give us a 5-star review if you enjoy. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in to this episode.